Saat ini, Anda sedang mendengarkan Radio Era Baru, Green Radio Line, Beyond the Limit.
Hey now, you're listening Green Radio Line with me, Livia Collins, in program BUMI KITA program, or we call it as Our Earth program. So today we have a special interview. We have a exclusive interview with Patricia Wattimena with the topic today, Indigenous Women, Feminism, and also Climate Justice. So she is speaking as a young Indigenous feminist. And yeah, maybe for the first, you can introduce yourself to our listener, please.
Hi, thank you, Green Radio, to have me. It is really a pleasure to be here and talking with you, Livia. I am Patricia Wattimena, already mentioned, an Indigenous women from Haruku community in the eastern part of Indonesia. The HA Regional Feminist Organization in Thailand. We are based in Chiang Mai and also in Malaysia, Penang. So I've been in Thailand for 5 years now. But before joining that organization, I was with the Asian Indigenous Peoples Pact, and that was another regional organization based also in Chiang Mai, working on indigenous issues.
Yep, that's great. But there is can you repeat it once again, because I can hear your voice so clearly. So I'm sorry. I think the connection is not really good.
Sure, it's okay.
Yep.
Is it better now?
Yes, better. Can you introduce yourself, your name,
Okay, that's
your
cool.
background again?
Yes, hey, I'm Patricia Wattimena, as Livia already mentioned, and I'm coming from the eastern part of Indonesia, an indigenous community. Haruku. It is an island, so I'm part of coastal living community. Now I'm working with the Asia Pacific Forum on Women, Law and Development. It is a regional feminist organization based here in Chiang Mai, but we also do have another office in Penang. So I've been here in Thailand for 5 years now.
Okay.
Well, I mean, like it's pretty long time, but I still love it here.
Yes, amazing. And where exactly your hometown, and how long you have been spending or your time or living in Thailand exactly?
As I said before, it is an island in central Maluku. So the island itself, we call it Haruku Island, but then the village where I'm coming from is also named the same with the island. It's Haruku. So it's one of the 11 villages that's in that island. Yes, and how long? As I told you just now, 5 years and counting.
Yes. Okay, amazing. And we know we are in the middle of pandemic COVID-19 right now, and how the COVID-19 itself impact to the people in Thailand.
You know what? The place where I'm living right now, which is in Chiang Mai, it's more like northern part of Thailand. I feel safe here, to be honest, because Thailand has been observing like 0 cases for like 100 days and all that. And then all the measures here to prevent like further spread is really, really cool. In terms of like how COVID itself affecting people, could really see that COVID-19 pandemic is really, really a crisis right now that exposing a lot of like, I think how vulnerable it could be like a country to everything, like how strong a country is. And then here, like, because like where I am based now, because the place is really, really how you call that, dependent on like tourism and everything. It affects a lot those say food vendors, those in the tourism areas, all these, they have here like big Sunday market and whatnot, all the locals and all the vendors and all those people actually in informal work sector
Mm-hmm.
is really, really affected. Yeah. So I would say like it is quite bad. But you know what?
Yep.
In fact, I was just back in Indonesia a few weeks ago, and then I felt, I mean, like the pandemic in Indonesia is even worse than
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
how the case would rise and everything. So I was even more worried when I was in Jakarta. So it was a pretty interesting feeling also for me, like
Mm-hmm.
going back home, but you see, like you don't really feel safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. And like we're coming from another questions that we have today. Is that you say that you're coming from the indigenous community, and I'm really curious. Like, what do you think about the major challenges as an indigenous woman, especially, and also both in the bit within and also the outside of the community?
Hmm. Well, I think we are talking about like indigenous women and the challenges that we are facing as indigenous women.
Mm-hmm.
um, speaking from like my own experience, and then also like how I see the situation in the Asia Pacific region. Well, I'll start from like my experience. I guess, if you see, there is really, it's something that's there for a long time, like the recognition of the rights, the values, and the roles of indigenous women in the community. That is something that still like we are fighting for as
Mm-hmm.
indigenous women. I think another thing really is about, how the community, or how the people in general are looking at indigenous women, and like
Mm-hmm.
specifically their right to be in decision making processes. But I think another thing that's worth mentioning is also this collective rights of indigenous peoples. One of them is right to free, prior, and informed consent.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happened in the exercise of that rights is that indigenous women are often left behind. They
Yep.
are not there in the process. Um, so even within the community, obviously, with the also existing for generations patriarchal
Mm-hmm.
customary law, that is also another thing that is really, really a challenge for indigenous women, because many of those laws, they don't recognize the
Yeah.
position of indigenous women within the community, within the village governance, and
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth. So that is also another challenge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. For all of the challenges that you have already mentioned, like what is the main problems that you think as a woman you face it every day? Meanwhile, you are as your title, the indigenous woman itself, and I think what is that?
Sorry, come again. I couldn't follow your question.
Yep. I think the main problem that you face meanwhile you are as a indigenous woman and you think this is important to be changed or to work with about them. Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, like the most important would be the recognition of the position of indigenous women within the community.
Mm-hmm.
So once you recognize their positions, their values, their roles, not like I think the most important thing is like indigenous women don't want to be sidelined when it comes to a lot of processes within the communities or outside the community.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is now it is happening a lot, and it is rising because of like many and many and many patriarchal
Mm-hmm.
system that is even entrenched within the community, within so many indigenous communities. Yeah.
Yep. Yep, I agree with that. Totally agree. And then now you're speaking as a young indigenous feminist. And what makes you decided to just work in the activism and people's movement? Is that because your background or the problem that you face that you found as an indigenous woman itself?
Right. I think if you ask me about what drives me, why
Mm-hmm.
am I here? I would say it's because of anger. And I
Oh.
am still angry now.
Mm-hmm.
Like why anger? Because for me, like I am angry seeing my own community
Mm-hmm.
and many indigenous communities are actually deprived
Yep.
of their rights. Many are deprived of their rights, especially their rights to lands, to natural resources.
Yep.
They are all affected, and then they're because of that, their environment is destroyed, especially because of corporate plunder, because of the current climate crisis, where where they contribute the least, so for me that's why I am here, but also,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, i see hope I see hope that comes from the resilience, the resistance, and the
Mm-hmm.
relentless struggles of many indigenous women in the communities.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are so many challenges, but I still see hope. And then I believe Greta Thunberg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you know what, Livia? Like, I met a lot of Greta Thunberg there in the community,
Wow.
in the
Mm-hmm.
faces of all these indigenous women who have been, like, for generations, like, keeping their environment, fighting for their forests and all that. So those are the reasons why I'm here, because
Mm-hmm.
some of us, I think, including me, I would like to recognize and acknowledge the privilege. I feel that I am privileged enough
Yep.
to be able to speak out as an indigenous woman, you know. But also, I feel that I am privileged enough to amplify the voices of those in the community. So for me, those are the things that fueling, like, all the things that I'm doing right now and that
Mm-hmm.
here, yeah.
Yes, amazing. Yes, totally. Right. And then, like you're speaking as an indigenous woman. Do you think like it is important to a woman like to learn about the feminist itself and also the feminist movement in order to be more empowered or to speak out more? Do we really
Mm.
have to learn about feminists?
Mm, mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm. Um, that's really interesting questions, because sometimes people would see that indigenous women's movements and feminist movements
Mm-hmm.
is like are two different things, but no, they're not. Like, totally, like, they are linked to each other. And then for me, I believe in the culture of solidarity,
Mm-hmm.
in strengthening movement, because we are challenging, like, system of oppression. We are challenging, like, capitalism. We are challenging neoliberal economic system that destroys all of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then also what I see is that feminism is about centering women's voice and experiences. So it is the core of collective struggle to see power relation and indigenous women's voice
Yep.
is at the heart of feminist movements. So I believe that it is very important for indigenous women to actually learn about feminism, because they are part of it.
Yep.
So we are all together to resist the globalization, fundamentalism, militarism, and patriarchy, which I believe is the root causes of women's oppression. Yeah.
Yep, 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 exactly. And like, would you agree, like, that strong resistance of women and also feminist movement can be the solutions for the different problem that the women have right now? Because, like several women, and because of their area or where they live, they have a different problem. Do you think that this is like a solutions for the woman itself?
Solutions.
Mm-hmm.
What I see also and what I learned in feminist movement, is that the very core approach to it is intersectional approach.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about intersectionality in the sense that we acknowledge and we believe, like what you're just saying, that women have different layers of challenges and
Mm-hmm.
facing different layers of issues.
Yes.
So it didn't till the solution, because, again, as I said, we need to, once women are acknowledged that they are having different layers, that's where you could see feminism that I believe in
Mm-hmm.
as a solution to those. Yeah. So I think it is because in feminism, we believe that it is still the solution. We see differences in even like approaching all these challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned to you before about like centering women's voice,
Yep.
but what does it mean really? It
Mm-hmm.
really means that we are talking about women's experience. Those women themselves come and talk for themselves and not letting anybody else come and talk on behalf of them.
Mm-hmm.
That is not feminism.
Mm-hmm.
That's for me. So yeah, so I think it is still it can be one of the solutions. I mean, a tool to get to what we vision. Advancement of women's rights and everything. Women in all their diversities, of course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. When we're talking about a feminist, it always leads to the patriarchy, right? And do you think that if we are always fighting against the patriarchy and the cultural like the that oppress women, do you think that this will work? Like we will have a champion, like it will set us
Mm.
free. Do you think like that?
Mm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm. It's funny. You know what? I just really, yeah, it's interesting. No, it's funny in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that patriarchy is everywhere, and it is not only like it causes so many things. Yeah, in globalization, there is a very strong patriarchal system.
Yep.
In in militarism, in fundamentalism, and all that, there is there is a very strong patriarchal system. One thing I want to clarify is that in the struggle, that we
Mm-hmm.
have, that feminist movements are fighting to dismantle patriarchy.
Yep.
But for where I am coming from, my perspective as a feminist, the opposite of patriarchy is
Mm-hmm.
not matriarchy.
Yep. And what is that?
It's not like as you were mentioning just now about like you think we have the champion and whatnot. Like we're not talking about champions and all that.
Mm-hmm.
For us, like again, as I said, it's not like replacing patriarchy with matriarchy, not at all.
Okay.
But it is not a power offer. It is not a power offer, but it is a solidarity and power sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we have learned a lot from indigenous women movements in so many corners of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe like patriarchy as really one of the fuel to all systemic issues and all the root causes of oppressions that women are facing. One thing would be like patriarchy is fueling globalization, patriarchy is fueling militarism, patriarchy is fueling fundamentalisms, so you could really see there, like, I think that is something, that is a culture that we really need to fight. And I believe
Yes.
that if we fight that, we would win. We win in the sense that again, not power offer, but
Mm-hmm.
shift the power, share the power with the women, empower them, empower all of us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I found out that many like misunderstanding that happens to the people, especially when we are talking about feminism, especially when we're talking about that in the public area. Many people like kind of hate when we're saying I'm a feminist woman. I believe that we can live as an equal, as a man and a woman. And how do you react for that kind of perspective?
Well, for what I believe, like, what I see, like, feminism is not about women against men.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what? A lot of women are also patriarchal. We are not talking about your biological, no. You would see, I mean, like for me, like from what I experience, again, a lot of women, even as women, they are patriarchal.
Okay.
They can be very patriarchal. So it's not about men and women, but it
Mm-hmm.
is about, I mentioned before, power sharing,
Yeah.
culture of solidarity, how all of us like working together. Like as a feminist, you speak for the oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
as a feminist, like you speak, you center women's voice, you speak on their like their experiences and what are we against? Like we are not against men, we are against root causes of oppression.
Yep.
Again, I mentioned those root causes are the globalization, fundamentalism, militarism, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, again, patriarchy. So yeah, that is something that I really need to clarify, and it is something that's it is this mainstream idea about
Yep.
what feminist is. Being a feminist and like what you don't like men? No, I love them.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
But hold on, like are they patriarchal? If they are patriarchal, then I'm going to speak out against them.
Yep.
But if they are not, it is about embracing all the diversities, yeah, but not like against men against women.
Yep, definitely right. And like as a feminist and the young indigenous people that you have already mentioned about, and how do you see like the current climate crisis that we are facing right now?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Very quick about that. Like where I'm working, we are seeing also like this the situation in the region, no? Especially in the Asia Pacific region.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the region includes the countries with like most vulnerable to climate change, climate crisis, and to environmental damage. Environmental disasters.
Yep.
Um, and what I see is that climate change impacts differently and more deeply on women, and can exacerbate like the existing inequalities that we already have.
Mm-hmm.
I think like you in your work and then in your work, some people have also heard that like the world leaders even, acknowledging that we have only less than 10 years left to save the planet, and because the global temperatures is
Yep.
just continue to rise.
Mm-hmm.
So as the climate crisis aggravates, what's really what's really more challenging is that corporations seeing this as a business opportunity that they can
Mm-hmm.
profit from.
Yep.
That's how I see it, and the governments. And
Mm-hmm.
the governments, they lean towards this market-based quick fixes, file solution,
Definitely.
because all those things, they are not challenging the status quo and still driving economic growth. So that's something I see. I mean, the situation with the climate crisis now,
Mm-hmm.
like that's something I see, yeah, in the region. Yeah.
Yes. This is always interesting to talk about a climate crisis and what's happening right now. And then do you think like how important like the climate justice to the world and also the woman, and how we can fight to get like the the climate justice for our future, because this is of course it's impact to our futures.
Hmm. Oh, climate justice. Of course, it is important because, climate justice would be a radical future that I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine this. I imagine a world, yeah, where the most marginalized and oppressed women groups are able to seek accountability for every violation that they experience. That's where climate justice is. When I'm talking about accountabilities, they're able to see accountabilities and violation. I'm talking about all these land grabbing issues, like those who destroys our planet.
Mm-hmm.
We need to demand them to be accountable, to the massive exploitations and the distractions that bring women into poverty. That would be climate justice, for me. The world
Mm-hmm.
to be in climate crisis, all these polluters, we need to make them responsible. And
Yes.
imagine a kind of world,
Mm-hmm.
imagine a kind of world that a future that
Yep.
gives justice to the people, to the women, where the
Mm-hmm.
perpetrators, the polluters, the main actors who cause climate crisis
Mm-hmm.
are accountable to injustices that they cause.
Yep.
Like I ask you back, like how important you think it is. It is very important, and
Yep.
I do believe like it is not only for the women, but for the world in general. Yeah, I think that's how important it is.
Yep, definitely. That's 100% right. And then we come to the last questions that we have for today, like your closing statement or even your message or your calls to our listeners, Green Radio Line listeners, and the people in Indonesia, please.
Oh wow! I was thinking about something, but then now I forgot. But I just want to say that being a young indigenous feminist,
Mm-hmm.
all the clarificatory questions already there. I mean, what you're saying, and what I was saying also about the culture of solidarity,
Mm-hmm.
to strengthen movement, to build movement, to challenge all these oppressions, all these root of oppression.
Yep.
I would say that I see myself as part of not only climate justice,
Mm-hmm.
indigenous, or fem movements,
Mm-hmm.
but also part of larger social movements.
Yep.
We all have common struggle to challenge the current neoliberal economic and development system
Mm-hmm.
that destroy the environment and deprive women of their rights. It is a collective struggle, right? So for me, I think something that I want to say as also young indigenous women is that we need to recognize in we are standing in right now, like we carry the struggle, the torch of struggle, so
Mm-hmm.
it's very important for us to be hand in hand. One last line is that it is also very important and it's critical to recognize young women in all their diversities and different layers of how climate crisis is
Mm-hmm.
affecting them.
Yep.
Only with this, then we can strengthen our solidarity and movements to challenge the current oppressive and growth-focused, market-driven development system.
Definitely. That's a
So yeah,
good
that's something.
message. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes. I'm sure that we can learn a lot of things by our interview today. So do our listeners. And yeah, I really thank you. I really want to say thank you for your times and what we have been sharing today. And I stay healthy and yeah, be powerful and yeah, keep empowered and empowered women and fight for the rights of women. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Green Radio. It's
Saat ini, Anda sedang mendengarkan Radio Era Baru. Green Radio Line, Beyond the Limit.